So first of all, I'd like to pay some respect to Leonard Bundu. I feel like if he was probably like 5 years younger, he'd probably make a bigger splash in the sport. But unfortunately, I think he's in his 40s now. But I mean, he's still doing some great things. I mean, making it to the IBF eliminator is nothing to eliminator. Sorry, is nothing to laugh about. So much respect to Leonard Bundu. But Errol Spence Jr. He had an impressive knockout victory, 6 rounds. Oh man, that knockout was pretty brutal. I mean, it looked like he snatched his soul. Like it was. I think it was like an uppercut. Bam. Oh man. But Errol Spence continues to prove why he is the truth. I think another proper moniker for Errol Spence will be like the executioner because I mean I think is that he's definitely the best at closing fights. He's definitely the best out. Like, you know what I mean? Some fighters are able to kind of get away with their trickiness and the way they bounce around and slip. But Errol Spence, he cuts off the ring beautifully. He gets it done. So I might start calling Errol Spence the executioner. Um, but anyway, first 3 rounds, there were. I gave every round to Errol Spence Jr., but the first 3 rounds were a little bit more competitive. Leonard Bundu, he was doing some pretty. He Leonard Bundu to keep Spence guessing. He would consistently switch from southpaw to orthodox, and you can tell that was kind of it wasn't necessarily bothering Errol Spence, but I feel like it Errol Spence had to adjust to that, but after the third round, Errol Spence is like, he got it all down packed. He started jabbing more and more frequently. We saw, he started doing his thing, ripping to the body. Those early body shots were probably what slowed Bundu down. But yeah, after the third round, it was pretty much the distance between Bundu and Spence just kept on widening. And Spence just kept on winning the rounds more and more impressively until the knockout. And so, yeah, it was just a wrap from there. Now, I know a lot of people, at least me personally, I always thought that Errol Spence his defense was a little bit suspect because I haven't seen guys really like push him back. But I actually thought we saw a little bit more of Errol Spence's defensive responsibility in this fight. I at least saw a few times when Bundu was throwing some combinations. I finally got to see Errol Spence actually catch the punches in ways that a lot of fighters don't really do. Like with Errol Spence, I liked how even that he was catching with his high guard, of course, but that's what you normally do with the high guard. But I liked how Errol Spence he would actually like almost raise his elbow and even catch it under his armpit. Just little things like that. I liked it. I like seeing that because I don't normally see Errol Spence like being defensively responsible. Me personally, like I most of the times when I see him, he's pushing forward or he's stepping back. You know what I'm saying? But he actually kind of there were spots in the fight where he actually would throw with Bundu, and he would actually take his stand and not be backed up by him. So I thought that was impressive. This was definitely a much more impressive performance than Keith Thurman's. I know some people probably are going to be comparing. I don't know if you see. Here's my thing. I feel like after watching this fight, I'm curious to see Errol Spence against someone. I'm not saying this is his weakness by any means, but I'm just curious to see Errol Spence against someone that can really hook. That's known for a good hook. A Keith Thurman fight is something I'm very interested in. But if I were Errol Spence, if I were managing Errol Spence, I'd want Errol Spence to stay on the IBF route. And if Kell Brook is looking likely to probably drop that belt, I don't think Kell Brook wants to fight Errol Spence. But if he does drop the IBF belt, I would love to see a unification bout between him and Keith Thurman or Dan Garcia. Pretty much what I'm saying is Errol Spence is definitely ready for the big boys. I definitely consider he's no longer a prospect. He's definitely an elite fighter at this point. There's no mistaking it. Errol Spence is here. He's the truth. And he's going to be a problem for anyone in that division. Yeah, definitely a problem. I mean, Keith Thurman, I think Keith Thurman right now, I think it's safe to say he's the best welterweight at this point. However, him and Errol Spence will be very interesting because I think because of Errol Spence's high guard, he'll be a little bit more susceptible to looping punches. Keith Thurman is very good with that left hook. I think he can catch Errol Spence Jr. However, I think that Errol Spence Jr. He Errol Spence he has a devastating body attack, and we've seen Keith Thurman buckle under body punches and stuff like that. So it'll be a very interesting fight. I definitely would love to see that fight very soon between Spence and Thurman. But we'll see what happens. Of course, Spence has to get through Brook first, but Brook's most likely going to drop that belt. I don't think he wants any piece of Errol Spence Jr. But if Brook beats Gennady Golovkin, he's vindicated. I'm okay. If he beats Gennady Golovkin, he just earned himself a duck. That's the way I see it. But he has to beat Golovkin, of course. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Because if Kell Brook fights Gennady Golovkin, I'm not gonna ask and beats him. I'm not gonna say, all right, now you gotta defend your belt. You know what I mean? Like me personally, I know that Kell Brook is probably young. If he actually, for me, I'm just speaking for me. All right, if he actually trains like he thinks that he can beat Golovkin, and it clearly shows in the fight, as in like he puts his heart out there and shows courage, shows that he's there to actually win and wins it, then I'll have no problem with him. Taking a soft touch after Gennady Golovkin, because there's no doubt about it that Kell Brook is probably going to go to war, but he has to win. You see what I'm saying? Like I have no sympathy for Kell Brook if he loses, because no one asked him to go to 160, and no one asked him to fight Gennady Golovkin. But if he actually goes there and does his division proud, does everybody right, and beats this man, then yeah, you get a soft touch. And hopefully, after that soft touch, you then fight Errol Spence Jr. But again, it's only if Kell Brook wins, I'll be okay with him ducking Errol Spence Jr. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Errol Spence Jr. is definitely well on his way to a title. It doesn't matter which title it is. I definitely think he definitely has a good shot to beat any of the elite 147 pounders. But we'll see what these 147 pounders have to say about it. All right, casual fan here. I'll be back with some more shit later.